The White Hummer, a WCW mystery that really does encapsulate what World Championship Wrestling had become in 1999 and 2000. Everyone loves a good mystery case, doesn't matter if it's a movie, a video game or a book. Finding who done it after a good long build-up can work wonders for engagement. Pro wrestling mysteries are nothing new. As a matter of fact, they're used quite frequently as a way to hook viewers in and keep people watching from one week to the next. But here's the thing, as a writer, you better know the payoff. You better know who was behind the mystery, or you're gonna leave people feeling frustrated or feeling like they wasted their time. Enter World Championship Wrestling, a company that had become so chaotic that they would end storylines as soon as they started them. Many times the fine folks writing for WCW would fly by the seat of their pants and make stuff up moments before a show or even a segment went live to TV. So putting faith in these guys to build a genuine mystery angle that spanned months was always a big ask. They tried with the White Hummer angle. Someone was driving the Humvee and doing a lot of damage while fans wondered who was behind the wheel. And today I'm going to dig into this whole thing while leaving no stone unturned. I've seen this covered before, and honestly other folks skip over a lot of significant moments, particularly from WCW's Thunder show. So let's do it all in chronological order and you'll see yourself how many times WCW tripped up when trying to put this together. The White Hummer was introduced during the ill-fated Macho Man Randy Savage vs Kevin Nash rivalry. Folks who watch this channel a lot already know my thoughts about this feud, but in short, I feel like it hurt WCW in a big way. For me, the true downfall of the company began during this time period. Randy Savage, along with Team Madness, are the bad guys. Kevin Nash is currently the world champion babyface. And the first time the White Hummer was seen on WCW TV was on the June 7th, 1999 episode of Nitro. Mona, Medusa and Gorgeous George, members of Savage's entourage, try to entice Kevin Nash into a limousine. They don't call him Big Sexy for nothing, guys. Earlier in the evening, Nash embarrassed Savage by having a young lady hide in a duffel bag and pour poop all over the Macho Man. The week prior, Nash also splashed Macho and company with some sewage when he got on top of their limousine, so Kev really should have known better when Randy's girls asked him to get in their limo for some extracurricular activities. Before getting in the limo, Kev tells the women to get out. He wants to check the vehicle before hopping in, but he foolishly didn't check who the driver was. Medusa and company get out, they tell Nash to get in first. Clearly the big man was thinking with his wee winky and not his brain, because he gets in, the door closes, and Macho Man Randy Savage is driving the limo. Macho drives forward a little, he parks up, and just after he runs away, a White Hummer drives into frame and it hits the limo over and over again. Now, we can rule out 4 suspects just from this clip alone. It wasn't Macho behind the wheel, and it wasn't Medusa, George or Mona. We can see the female members of Team Madness in the background while the Hummer smashes into the limo over and over again, so we can eliminate these guys from our suspect list. Nash is in a bad way after the attack and the mystery has now begun. Who was behind the wheel and who wanted to destroy Kevin Nash on the Macho Man's behalf? We get a follow-up on the following episode of Thunder. Randy Savage arrives via limo, he tells George and company that Nash is nowhere to be found and winning the world belt at the Great American Bash is going to be like stealing candy from a baby. But then Randy thinks he sees Kev parked up at the side of the road and he gets out to confront him. Turns out it was Brian Adams, and Brian didn't take too kindly to Macho jumping him from behind. So the two have a match, Randy wins, and later on, Nash phones in the Thunder saying he's got a cracked rib and he's not doing so good. Nash has been watching the tape over and over again, he didn't see who was behind the wheel and he can't make any guesses as to who drove the Hummer. He does mention that the internet's talking, and the internet says it could have been Scott Hall. Kev did try to contact his old buddy, but he can't get hold of him, so Kev isn't ruling out the bad guy just yet. He says he's still going to the pay-per-view this week, but he won't be at 100%. So we go to the Great American Bash with the topic of the White Hummer still on everyone's mind, and it appears the mystery's solved when Sid Vicious returns to WCW and he helps Macho beat up Kev. Big Sexy keeps his belt via DQ, but he doesn't look like a winner after the bout. Surely this is it? Common sense says someone helped Macho during the limo incident and now Macho's getting help again at the Great American Bash. It could have been case closed right here and Sid Vicious was the man who drove the Hummer, but no, because the Hummer would make more appearances in the weeks and months that followed, so we're nowhere near done when it comes to solving this mystery. The night after Great American Bash, Sid, Macho and the girls get out of a black Hummer. I wouldn't pay too much attention to the colour of the vehicle, and I think WCW just used whatever Hummers they could rent out in whatever city they went to. What is noticeable here though is that Sid gets out of the front passenger seat. He did not drive the Hummer to Nitro. When Kevin Nash comes out later to cut a promo, we see Sable sitting in the audience. Many have speculated that it was going to be Sable who drove the Hummer, but this would have been incredibly short-sighted due to Sable not even having a WCW contract. Her ticket to Nitro was paid for. The cameras, legally, were just showing her there as a fan, though I do admit that Sable would have fit into Team Madness pretty well. Later on, Rick Steiner had a hardcore match against Hack, and when the two were fighting backstage, Sting emerged from the Hummer. Sting was feuding with Rick Steiner around this time, and he took this opportunity to go after his enemy. And while most fans thought nothing of this, and while most fans thought the mystery was wrapped up after the Sid reveal at the pay-per-view, Sting coming out of the Hummer would make him a suspect when WCW made it clear that the angle was going to continue. Macho faced Kevin Nash in the Nitro main event. Sid and Team Madness got involved. The Stinger came out to help Big Sexy, and Nitro goes off the air. It's worth pointing out here that no real mention of the Hummer was made on the next episode of Thunder, but on the next episode of WCW Saturday Night, Dusty Rhodes said that Sid Vicious was too big to drive a Hummer. This makes absolutely no sense, seeing as we've seen the big man get out of smaller vehicles on both Raw and Nitro. A Hummer would be more uncomfortable for someone the size of Sid, but we've watched them drive smaller cars. We've also watched them freak out beside a very small flattened car, but nonetheless, I think the purpose of this Saturday Night bit was to just open the whole Hummer mystery up again. This gets proven true, and on Nitro, Kevin Nash goes looking for answers, so I guess Sid was not the man behind the wheel after all. Team Madness show up during a Billy Kidman vs Psychosis match. Sting appears too, just as Sid powerbombs Psychosis, and the bad guys get out of harm's way by exiting the ring when Sting shows up. Kevin Nash walks down the ramp and he wonders why Sting didn't attack Sid nor Macho, and Nash also wonders why Sting appeared from the Hummer last week to attack Rick Steiner. Sting makes it perfectly clear that it wasn't him behind the wheel, and Kevin says Sting's gonna have a big problem if it turns out he was the man driving the Hummer. Sting faces Sid in the main event, and when Macho gets involved, Kevin Nash does not come out to help the Icon. Instead, Sting gets help from Lex Luger, who only came back recently, and this should ring alarm bells. Was it maybe Lex behind the wheel? It would be a typical WCW swerve, and fans knew not to rule Luger out, and as it would turn out, Lex would get intertwined in the mystery when he began accusing other people down the road. On the June 24th episode of Thunder, Kevin Nash flat out says that he knows Sting's working alongside Team Madness. This causes a problem, seeing as Nash and Sting are going to team up to face Macho and Sid at Bash at the Beach. Kev seems pretty confident that Sting's against them. The crowd boo when he mentions Sting as the main suspect. And then, later on, Macho comes out and he explicitly says no one in Team Madness drove the Hummer, and that includes Sid Vicious. He also says the driver could be Scott Hall, it could be Sting, it could have been both of them, but Macho knows who the driver is, of course, and he's using this knowledge to play mind games with the world champion. On the following episode of Nitro, WCW really play into the whole Hummer angle towards the very end of the show. Kevin Nash was going to defend the world title against David Flair. David wins, he becomes champ. If Kev wins, he gets Torrie Wilson for 72 hours. Dirty dog. Not only did Torrie go along with Nash willingly, even though the match was a no contest, Nash also scooped up Gorgeous George and he headed backstage with the two women. Just as Kev was about to get into a limousine, he saw a Hummer, and in the wing mirror he also saw Sting. Nash didn't have the opportunity to go after the Stinger, seeing as Macho and Sid were hot on his tail, but this confirms it, right? It wasn't Sid, it wasn't Lex, it wasn't Sable, it wasn't Scott Hall, it was Sting. Or maybe a fake Sting perhaps? It wouldn't be beneath WCW to bring back a fake Sting at all, but for sure that's the real Sting in the wing mirror, isn't it? The plot thickens on the July 1st episode of Thunder, and I implore you guys to go watch this episode if you haven't done so already. I covered it for Reliving the War, and it has some unintentionally hilarious stuff, particularly when Kevin Nash is phoning Randy Savage regarding a meetup. Savage wants Gorgeous George back, Kev wants his world belt back, saying as Randy stole it at the end of Nitro, so Nash gives Randy a location, and we see Savage running around trying to find this location while getting really stressed out. When the two finally meet, we see that there's actually two Hummers, and after Nash tries to deal with Macho and Sid, he takes a shot with Sting's baseball bat. We can see clearly right here that this is a fake Sting, it's not the original, and when the bad guys drive away, we see Sid driving one Hummer and the fake Sting driving the other. This really should be the end of our little mystery, but also keep in mind that WCW were still playing it off like it was the real Sting who attacked Kev. So on the July 5th episode of Nitro, Roddy Piper calls out Sting to get some answers. Some little dude walks out wearing a Sting mask. This isn't even the fake Sting from Thunder, it's a fake Sting. This guy says he is not associated with Team Madness, he wasn't driving the Hummer, and Piper knows it's all nonsense, so he attacks whoever this is and he takes his mask off. The guy crawls away, Nitro continues on, but at least the use of a second fake Sting is somewhat explained when the first fake Sting, yeah, this is getting confusing, but the Sting who attacked Nash on Thunder shows up again during the Nitro main event. The real Sting attacks his doppelganger while perhaps showing that Steve Borden is still on Team Nash. Big Kev gets all confused and he ends up powerbombing the Icon though, so yeah, it's a bit of a mess. Still, case closed, right? It was a fake Sting all along, or you could say it was Sid before the Great American Bash and the fake Sting after the Great American Bash. You could also say WCW had no fucking clue what they were doing and they were making it up as they go along, and you'd probably be right, as evidenced as we go forward. At Bash at the Beach 99, Kevin Nash went into the tag team main event not knowing if he could fully trust Sting, and he became even more suspicious when Sting hit him with a Stinger Splash. This was accidental, of course, but it eventually led to Randy Savage getting the win and Savage becoming the new world champion. Yeah, the belt was up for grabs in a tag team match. What happens next is quite odd because on Nitro the following night, the Hummer isn't discussed at all. Absolutely no mention of the driver, no fake Stings, and no accusations getting thrown around. I have my own theory as to why the Hummer stuff was dropped here, and I could be wrong by the way, but on this night Hulk Hogan returned to WCW and he ended up beating Randy Savage for the championship with some help from Kevin Nash. Nash would then turn heel and we'd build towards a Big Sexy vs Hulk Hogan match at Road Wild. So I think Hogan came back on short notice and the whole title scene and main storyline just totally shifted. It's crazy that Nash wouldn't address the Stinger Splash from Bash at the Beach, but it was just completely ignored. So it seems like the Hummer angle's now been completely dropped and we could probably say it was Sid and the fake Sting all along. One problem though, one pretty big problem. Around a month later, on the August 4th episode of Thunder, Randy Savage gave an interview and he brought up the Hummer once again. Macho was getting ready to face Dennis Rodman at Road Wild. Rodman had made some advances at Gorgeous George. Well, he tried to kidnap her, but anyway. Macho said here, and I quote, "The baddest person on the planet was going to protect George at Road Wild, and not only that, this surprise person was also the driver of the White Hummer." Randy then promised to reveal the big surprise on Nitro the following week. Mean Gene interviews the Macho Man once again on Monday night to get some answers, and Macho just dodges the question. There's no reveal at all, Macho doesn't introduce anyone, and at Road Wild, the match goes ahead with no surprises either, so it's crystal clear now that WCW were making it up as they go along. Either that or they tried to sign someone and it fell through. Take note though that Randy Savage said he was bringing the baddest person to Road Wild and not the baddest man. This could maybe mean it was a woman who was going to appear, and it does make a circle back to Sable if you want to go down this route. I really don't think it was supposed to be Sable, but it's just a thought really. If I were on the writing team, I'd make the decision to drop the whole thing completely now. There's absolutely no sense continuing on because even fans were getting tired of all the teases and nothing coming of it. But they couldn't help themselves. The mystery came up again, and this time it had nothing to do with Randy Savage or Team Madness. A suspect from before, Lex Luger, would make some big accusations regarding the driver, and it would all lead to one of the biggest failed heel turns in WCW history. Before we get into the Lex Luger stuff, I should point out that Eric Bischoff arrived in Nitro on the 23rd of August in a Hummer. Nothing was mentioned about this, it wasn't brought up by the commentators. Not sure if WCW was trying to do some foreshadowing here, and I only say that because leaving little crumbs like this wasn't WCW's strong suit. They were truly terrible when it came to subtle storytelling, no matter who was in charge. During this time, World Champion Hulk Hogan and Sting developed a friendship. In the middle of this friendship was Lex Luger, and Lex told the Stinger that Hulk Hogan could not be trusted. Sting felt that Hogan had changed his ways ever since he put on the red and yellow once again, but Lex thought otherwise. And on the 30th of August 1999 episode of Nitro, after taking a beating from someone backstage, Lex said he had irrefutable proof that Hogan was a bad man. Not only did Hogan just beat him up in the locker room, but Hogan's also been working behind the scenes to make life difficult for a lot of people. Luger invited Sting down to the ring while he presented his evidence, and that evidence was a photograph of Hulk Hogan standing beside a White Hummer. Hogan comes down, he says this doesn't prove anything. Sting isn't so sure though, and to be fair, I think a lot of fans might be a bit confused, seeing as we've had White Hummers, Black Hummers, the storyline stopping, the storyline starting again, multiple accusations, multiple reveals. I mean guys, I think it was time to put it to bed, but WCW didn't think so. The following week, Hogan says he drives a Black Hummer and a White Hummer. The one in the photograph was most definitely his, but it wasn't the same one that ran into Kevin Nash. In the end, this was all a setup by Sting and Luger. The two were working together to take the belt away from Hogan at Fall Brawl, and it all led to Sting turning heel. The heel turn did not go down well. Fans still wanted to cheer for the icon, but in the context of the White Hummer mystery, it just meant we were right back to square one. Luger had only used the photograph to make Hogan look bad and feed into the pay-per-view swerve. Hogan dismissed the notion that he was behind the wheel without much question when he told Mean Gene the Hummer in the photo wasn't the same as the vehicle involved in the limo crash. So, I mean, what are we doing here? If it wasn't Scott Hall, Sting, Fake Sting, Sid, Luger or Hogan, then who was it? From this point on, the Hummer angle is effectively dead. It does not get mentioned again. But when Vince Russo reboots WCW in the year 2000 alongside Eric Bischoff, the most mysterious vehicle in WCW history makes a return, and this time we do get answers. How this ties into 1999 though, that's something that's probably best left to interpretation. The Hummer's now totally forgotten about. The WCW reboot happens on the April 10th, 2000 episode of Nitro, and Vince Russo introduces a new era where the new blood of WCW are going to take over from the old guard. Eric Bischoff's going to work alongside Russo to usher in this new era, so forget everything you know about babyfaces and heels of the past. Sting, Luger, Hulk Hogan, Kevin Nash and Sid are all part of the Millionaires Club, and while these guys were planned to be the villains of this new initiative, it turned out fans would rather cheer for the old guys instead of getting behind the new stars. This shouldn't be surprising either, thanks to the way Vince Russo presented the new blood, but this is nothing you guys don't already know. Eric Bischoff tricked Hulk Hogan. He pretended to still be friends with Hulk while WCW played into their real personal and professional relationship. But Bischoff was setting Hulk up for an attack, and that attack happened on this same episode of Nitro. Billy Kidman wanted a piece of Hogan. Eric helped Billy out a little by hitting Hogan with a chair. And a bit later on, when Hulk was sitting in his limousine, the White Hummer returned in a very familiar manner when it drove straight into Hulk's limo. For the first time ever though, someone stepped out of the Hummer after the attack. Eric Bischoff was behind the wheel. So while this was the first ever driver reveal, we can't really circle it all back to 1999 because this is a new WCW after all, right? Well, we can still go back and try to put Eric in the driver's seat. If WCW actually done their homework and looked back at their video, they could have made Eric the driver all along, because when the very first attack happened back in June 1999, Eric Bischoff was actually at Nitro. He provided commentary for the first half of the show, which is even better seeing as the attack happened during the second half of Nitro. It was actually perfect seeing as Kurt Hennig provided commentary immediately after the crash and he joked about what happened to Kevin. So WCW actually made it obvious that Bischoff wasn't around, even though this was all totally unintentional. Bischoff would then come back on to commentary every now and then as other incidents unfolded on TV, such as Sting appearing during the Rick Steiner match. But one of the other obvious ways it could have all been tied back to Bischoff was back on the August 23rd episode of Nitro, where Eric got out of a Hummer when giving Mike Tenay an interview. It was all pretty much perfect, and there's no evidence to suggest Eric wasn't the driver all along, but we've got the reboot going against us here. We've got the fact that the creative team changed, and we've also got the fact that WCW were bad at doing long-term storylines with any kind of forward thinking. Consider this, if WCW really wanted Eric to be the driver all along, then they would have said as much after the Hogan attack during the reboot. They didn't do this, and that's really why we can't say it was Bischoff behind the wheel in 1999. It makes perfect sense, but WCW didn't pull the trigger. Kidman and Bischoff tried another Hummer attack the following week, but Hogan took care of Billy and he went after Eric before Eazy-E could start the ignition. Hogan took control of the wheel while Eric ran off, and Hollywood proceeded to bash a giant dumpster that had Billy Kidman inside. The Hummer wouldn't make another appearance on WCW television, and that's the end of our story, ladies and gents. So there you have it, the full story of WCW's White Hummer, and as mentioned a moment ago, you could easily argue it was Eric Bischoff all along by going back to the very first attack and the fact that Bischoff magically disappeared from the commentary table when the limo got hit. Tie this to Eric coming out of the Hummer in August, tie it again to Bischoff driving the vehicle when Hogan got attacked, and it should be case closed, but unfortunately it's not that simple. They made the Hummer storyline a major angle at first, they then muddied the story with the black and white Hummer contradictions along with multiple suspects, and when they had opportunities for the payoff at Bash at the Beach 1999, Road Wild and into late August, they used the mystery to redirect the heat onto new feuds. Basically, it was all reassigned to whatever main event feud needed a little extra. The New Blood stuff isn't a retroactive answer to what happened in 1999, but if WCW were smart, they absolutely could have used it as a retroactive answer. So, to wrap it up, I'd say WCW never explicitly identified the 1999 driver, and the fact that we had so many misdirections and continuity issues, that's what makes it all stand up as one of WCW's most infamous storylines. Thank you for watching everyone, I do appreciate it, and please take care.